This is an exclusive hot.
I loved being at Canada-wide Science Fair. I talk so highly about it. I tell my friends like you need to do a project. It doesn't have to be anything like extravagant. You just need to go for the experience. It's so amazing to meet like-minded youth who are excited about science as well. And just it was an amazing opportunity to have so many connections. I've met so many people, even people that I from my region I just never really spoke to. And then with that, we all kind of came together and said, wow, I like this subject too. And yeah, science fair was amazing. And then being able to travel as well to speak about something you're so passionate about was just incredible.
Growing up in a family, I have three older brothers who are also Canada-wide alumni as well. We were raised in a family where all of us were encouraged to try new things and kind of explore what our niche would be. Um, if there was something that we found, we were particularly interested in, say, outside of maybe science fair, an example would be like with music. My parents would just be like, nurture the heck out of that. Like, oh, you're interested in piano, like let's go for piano lessons. So we always had the opportunity, I think, to be curious through just the way that our family interacted with each other.
The science fair project, in my opinion, can also be seen as an investment in your own future, right? That's what happened to me, effectively. Doing the science fair every year really allowed me to internalize, basically, and find my passion for technology, for communication, and it was a time investment, absolutely. Instead of going home and then basically going play with friends, I would stay home, go in the basement, and basically start, in French we say bricoler, the product together, right? And that was a time investment. It was an energy investment, but it was one that basically paid me multiple folds throughout my career and my life so far.
I like that you call yourself a tinkerer, and I wonder at what point do you think that you decided to take your tinkerings and then turn them into more of a formal science fair project as it was?
Oh gosh. Well, my first science fair project was in grade
Mm-hmm.
6, and it was very much a combination of I had moved schools in grade 4, and all my old classmates and old friends at my old school at St. Margaret's had to do science fair as part of the curriculum, but my school didn't make you. So I would go and look at their science fair projects because my parents would take me every year beforehand. And I was like, I want to hang out with my old friends. So in grade 6, I did my first science fair project, and it was very much like me testing the water. So it was literally a project I'd done in school that I leveled up a bit, and it was like comparing laundry detergents.
Nice.
But from there, I like caught the science fair bug where I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. I get to work on something in science that I love outside of school. And then I get to make a poster, and then I get to present it, and then I get to get people's reactions. It was basically like me being a theater kid, but in science.
And I remember, I think that the big kind of image I have in my mind, and I could tell it was a very exciting moment, was walking into, I think the awards show. I don't know if it was Roy Thompson Hall. It was one of the big Toronto centers there, and the dance afterwards, and having all the like. Everybody was just so happy to be there with each other to celebrate, each other's success. And yeah, I remember that particular moment of, I think it was at the awards ceremony, that I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And from there it was like you get hooked. Like you do your first couple science fairs, and you see the people who are winning your best in fair type of thing, and you're like, man, like looking at how they put their projects together and what you can learn from each other. It was really a special process, and again, something that I hold very close to my heart now as a scientist and as a medical student. Like the relationships I had built back then, the things I have learned in terms of fundamental scientific principles, like they are timeless, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot as an 11-year-old, and I've always asked a lot of questions, and I think that's helped a lot with writing your report or whatnot. And all the testing was done right in my kitchen, so we didn't need a fancy laboratory. It was just at home science, and we grew fecal bacteria right in my basement, which I think is really fun to tell people when they come visit, like, you want to see my incubator, but um, yeah, it was a really, really neat process to be able to take a sample of water, run it through a filter funnel, and then get results within 36 hours. And I really think that's so cool. And I think more people should be exposed to at-home science and having fun, because at school science is portrayed as just a textbook and you do question 1 to 9 and then you pass it in. But it can be so much more exciting and hands-on.
They kids punch above their weights. They're just so into it, so smart. They put so much creativity into it. I actually comment. I say, we're behind on this project. We need to hire, another person or whatever else. And they'll say, well, no. It takes 6 months to a year for a person to come up to speed. I went, really? Oh, that's interesting, because you get a co-op student in here and they leave after 4 months and they've been productive. So why is it that students are way more productive and able to come up to speed than full-time staff? So I'm a big fan of students.
And I think that that's one of the, the big things that I've continued to see unfold as my career progresses, but also just a message of not trying to put boxes or barriers around what you want to accomplish, or in many ways, like when it comes to mentorship, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as well, but not putting limitations or boxes around a young person because of their age, like looking at, there is potential, this person has potential, they are driven to learn, they are curious, and those are some of the most fantastic attributes of a scientist. Because that is exactly as you said, like those are your eureka moments. You try something and you think like nobody has ever thought before, because why not?
I want all the kids and all the students and the teenagers to think you're going to be a lifelong learner. Yeah, you're going to high school, you're going to middle school, high school, and then possibly college or university. But after you're done with that, you're still learning. And I see myself learning until I'm 120 years old, for sure. But you're always learning. And the world is changing so much that if you're not constantly learning, at one point, like, you're so behind. So this memorizing of stuff is not useful necessarily, but having the skill to know to learn how to learn, basically. And that's why I'm trying to bring to students. That's what I'm trying to bring to teachers. Learn how to learn.
Communicating technology can be exciting, but communicating a vision that involves technology, now that has power. And effectively, the idea here is that the beauty of deep text, the beauty of science in itself and of discoveries, is that they make people dream, right? That's how science fiction as a genre basically really got created, if you think about it, right? It enabled to make people dream, and science discoveries today effectively can do the exact same thing. But one big difference is that now in our crazy connected world, there is a significant question between signal to noise ratio, right? Everybody is competing for your views, for your ears, everything. And so this is why an efficient, effective vision for the technology that is communicated adequately can definitely help your audience, basically, I'm going to use the word care about what you're saying and about the underlying technology in itself, in a way that if you only went straight into the science, which I'm a self-proclaimed geek, I love to dig into the science itself, but at the end of the day, it's not enough to get only the folks who actually, will fully understand basically the raw science behind it. It's as important to be able to have everyone that's part of your audience to understand the why, the how, and importantly, the what. What can this technology do for your audience? Product market fit.
I definitely encourage everyone to ask questions, even if they sound a little silly. I fully just think that you should go ahead and ask your questions and find a mentor. I think another huge component of being successful in a project is having a mentor, somebody who you can ask your questions to, somebody who can overlook your work, and just having a mentor is so important.
Yeah, that's great. And as many challenges there are facing, particularly the youth of today, I have so much faith and optimism in that whole generation. I'm so excited to see where the future of science comes, and with all of this advancement, with the passion that they show not only for science but also just for getting involved in political discussions and just being more aware as global citizens. I think it's going to be exciting times ahead.
And that's interesting you mentioned that, because also another thing that they need to be careful is, we've heard it a lot, fake news. So to be more critical thinker when they see information online. And I think, yes, there has been an explosion of citizen science, but we also need to make sure that we have proper science as well, and be able to have a critical eye when you look at science, and make sure that you look at the source. And all of those skills actually are more important now that things are published online everywhere. So I think that's important for our students to have this science literacy, because we've done a lot of literacy and numeracy over the years, but I don't think we've done a lot of science literacy.
And I think especially for people that are maybe at that stage in their lives where they're not quite sure what to do, I think any sort of understanding of STEM, even if it is just like a basic science fair project, or if you go to university and just do it like a quite a wide science degree, that's always going to stand you in a good stead in no matter what career you go to. I think having some sort of technical aspect, some sort of technical knowledge of just the way the world works, and I think just even the mindset of the scientific method is so important to the way you approach any decision in life, that science is so important. It doesn't matter what you go into.
Well, that's so true. I mean, being an engineer and being based in science means that you really want to understand the problem and make a decision based on facts. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can make some great decisions based on emotion, but most of the time it's like flipping a coin.
Gambling, yeah.
And that's no way to run a company.
Yeah.
So I really like to be able to, when we need to be able to do the deep dive and not get lost in the complexity of the problems, and be able to think about how do we break this down into something that's manageable so we can go forward. And you know what? It's more fun anyway. It's hard to get passionate about financial goals, but it's technological goals and customer-based goals and things like that are a lot easier to stay with for the long term.
Everybody's like, you must get good grades to make a difference, or whatever, and that is very important. And I was very much into getting good grades for quite a long time. But then I realized, hey, the things I'm doing outside of school are actually affecting my life and other people's lives a lot more than what I'm doing inside. And 80% of learning in general happens outside of the classroom. So a lot of kids in middle school and high school and their parents should really be thinking, what is my kid doing after school? And what can they do with that time, which is the most valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, being curious and staying curious, that naivety and optimism of your youth, and just having a passion for something is much more important than having to get the best grades, because, life is interesting. Life can take many turns along the way. So if you don't have the grades to get into that one course, that one university degree that you're really hoping for, doesn't mean you can't either get back into that course later in your life, or figure out that maybe there's a different way to have the same impact and same result in the end.
That's one of my kind of big goals, or another big message I try to convey is the importance of compassion in doing research and doing things that I think perhaps media or society can view as scientists being stuck behind microscopes and that's it. It's like, oh, this is the most incredible, collaborative, compassionate, and curious group of people that you can meet when they really get going and get chatting on a particular topic. It's amazing what can happen.